Good afternoon, Zimbabwe, and welcome once again to Zimbabwe Daily, your everyday platform where we bring you the conversations that matter. My name is Yvonne Muchaka, and this is Frank Talk. Today we are talking wetlands. What is the cost of restoring versus ignoring the scourge? Recently, we have seen, and Zimbabwe has received a very good rains, but these good rains have also come with another flip side, and that is of flooding. We are seeing residential houses being flooded. We are seeing our rivers being flooded. We are seeing a number of catastrophes. So today, to join me in this conversation, I've invited a number of guests. So I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Hello everyone, my name is Adlife Mdzingwa and I'm the National Coordinator for Community Water Alliance, which is a civic organization that deals with issues of wash, environment and climate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Mdzingwa.
Hello, my name is Michael Chideme. I am the Corporate Communications Manager for City of HARARE.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chideme, for joining us.
Hello everyone, hello Zimbabwe. My name is Ngela Sitange. I'm the Environmental Education and Publicity Manager with Environmental Management Agency, EMMA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Dange, for coming through. Please introduce yourself, sir. Mr. Shudzai. Honorable Shudzai, please introduce yourself. All right, I think we seem to be having a bit of network challenge there. Over to you, sir. Mr. Akili, please introduce yourself to our viewers, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, we seem to be having connection issues there. Mr. Akili, we can hardly hear you. If you can maybe try to re-enter into the platform, then we can have this conversation together. Can you hear us now? All right. All right. Thank you so much, Gladys Mackey from Banbury, Oxfordshire, for joining us on this conversation. So this is the background of the issue. We have seen flooding taking place in our country of late, and especially in the cities. We have been receiving very good rain in the country, but because of maybe what we can call poor planning, or I don't know, we have not been able to move quite well. We've seen a lot of spaces around town being flooded. So we are having a conversation with these ladies and gentlemen who are part of our policymakers. We have the former Minister of Local Government joining us, Honorable Siso Rizai. We also have the City of Harare spokesperson, Mr. Michael Chideme. We have Mr. Hardlife Mdzingwa of the Community Water Alliance. We have Madam Amkela Sidange from the Environmental Management Authority, and we also have Mr. Ruben Akili from the Combined Harare Residents Association. So in order for us to understand where the issues are, I'm going to ask Mr. Mudzingwa to begin this conversation by highlighting some of the challenges that as a Community Water Alliance they have noticed, and the recommendations that they have to our local and central government as we go forward. Mr. Mudzingwa, over to you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I think I want to start by stating that the problem that you are facing is flooding. And
Right,
flooding is emanating from depletion of wetlands, mainly within not only urban local authorities, even in the rural areas. So that's the problem. So the challenge on depletion of wetlands is caused by a wide range of factors. First one is construction of houses on wetlands, which
right,
has been rampant within urban local authorities mainly. And I don't want to point a finger at one stakeholder pertaining to why we are experiencing that challenge, because we do have different, types of ownership of land within urban local authorities. We have council land, we have state land, we have private land that is owned by private land developers. So construction of not only houses, buildings, I think that's the correct term to state, is the one that is
right,
contributing to depletion of wetlands and ultimately the challenges that we are experiencing. Um, and the other issue that is also contributing is, of course, urban agriculture on wetlands, which is also destroying those what I would term the natural infrastructure for water. And the third cause is poor management of catchments. And this one cuts across the country. It's not only for urban areas, but it also happens within rural areas. I think we've had pictures of the situation in as far areas as Mwenezi from where we are at the moment.
right.
So I think in brief, that's the problem that we're facing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Life, for coming through. So you've highlighted three major challenges that we are facing, and that is the construction of buildings on wetlands, urban agriculture, and poor management of catchments. I'll come to I wanted the residents to come in so that you can also highlight some of the challenges that you are facing when you approach the city councils, for example, or who is allocating lands to you. Like we've heard that we have state land, we have council land, and we have privately owned land in Harare and in the surrounding cities like Chitunguza, Norton, etc. So, Mr. Akili, if you can hear us, maybe you can also give us your presentation. Mr. Akili, may you unmute yourself, please, and give us your presentation? Okay, I'm not too sure if Mr. Akili can hear us. Hopefully he'll be able to sort himself out and then, give us a presentation, because I've asked each one of us to prepare like a 5-minute presentation so that we don't tag along for too long. I'm going to ask the city of Harare to come in and tell us what the challenges they are facing as the local authority, especially in this season where we are seeing flooding taking place in our communities. Mr. Shideme, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Yvonne. The problem that we are having with regards settlements on wetlands is that of invasions or illegal settlements, where people just go willy-nilly and settle themselves on land that is not designated for housing. And in the process, disturbing the natural ecosystem. And for a while, I think you are all aware, we were under a drought season. So we didn't have enough rains for 3-4 years. And people thought where they'd settled, the city was lying, telling them that you are settled on wetlands, and one day cross, when it rains, your settlement will be washed away. So
Right.
our biggest worry is on the lives of people, because it's only by the grace of God that we did not lose any lives under the current floods in the various suburbs. But there's a huge threat to life. There's a huge threat to investment. A lot of people have lost lifetime investments because when they build houses, Zimbabweans naturally build houses that last longer, and they put all their resources towards construction. So there are a lot of people that might have lost properties in these floods, and their investments, and their recovery will be very, very difficult going forward. So as we face these challenges, we still send across the message that whoever is settled on a piece of land, or municipal land or government land that was not properly allocated to them, and it's a wetland, the best that they can do is to move out now to and apply for proper housing land. Yes, it's difficult, it might take time, but it's better to have proper housing land so that when it rains, when there are floods, they are not adversely affected. And through discussions in some of the affected communities, you will find that some people had taken invasion of land as an investment avenue. They would leave their original homes, say in Glenora, Glenview, Uliriro, or in Mbare, and then say they'll put lodgers in their other properties, and then go and settle in the virgin land where they thought they would supplement their income through renting their original properties. So we encourage people or genuine home seekers, to apply for housing land through the various platforms, either through apply to government for state land or apply to councils, and then they can be allocated properly.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chideme. You are highlighting the very fact that there are people who have taken the issue of land invasion as a business venture. You also highlighted that the biggest challenge has been those invasions and illegal settlements. Where has the city of Harare been when these illegal settlements sprout?
The city of Harare has always been very visible in these illegal settlements. The first thing that the city does when people illegally settle themselves is to give them notices of vacation or to evacuate the places, because the notices will be telling them that the settlement is illegal and you are not supposed to build. But because we are a law-abiding local authority, we follow the rule of law. We apply
Right.
for court to remove the people. So the court orders take time to come out. And sometimes the court orders are issued when people have completed construction of their properties, of the properties. And so when the people see us removing those structures, they say we are being insensitive. But the truth is that we won't be insensitive. We will actually be applying the law, because the law would have taken longer to be applied. Sometimes it takes up to 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 10 months for the court order to come out. So within that period, people, when they have money, they'll be building their houses. So I think those are some of the issues that affect our effectiveness in terms of removing illegal structures. My appeal would be to Parliament to look into the relevant pieces of legislation, and then make it and maybe have clauses that can empower local authorities to attend to some of these illegal settlements without necessarily waiting for court orders. So those are some of the things that we need to do. And right now, I think everybody has learned a very, very big lesson with regards to the floods and the destruction of property, the destruction of the destruction of built-up properties and their household furniture. So I think when we talk more about illegal settlements or settling on wetlands, people will understand us more, because nature is given as a practical lesson, is given as a practical example of what not to do.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll come to you, Madam Amkela, in terms of the Environmental Management Authority. What is it that EMA is doing? What is it that it's supposed to be doing when we have scenarios such as what we are seeing at the present moment? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Maybe the first and foremost thing that I need to clarify to the public is that when you are looking at Environmental Management Agency, EMA is actually a regulatory body, a statutory body that is there to regulate, monitor, and promote sustainable management of natural resources and protection of the environment with stakeholder participation. And you need to really understand that the mandate of the agency it goes around the prevention of pollution and land degradation. And what is good about all this is that it has actually enforcing the Environmental Management Act, an act that is premised on the precautionary principle. The precautionary principle that underlines prevention is better than cure. Now, why what is it that we are then doing as the agency? We are doing everything that is within our purview to ensure that land degradation or pollution doesn't occur. And then looking at the issues of wetlands, you realize that we have been there all over the show, talking to the public, be it on media, like we are doing right away, actually to caution the public from actually settling in wetlands, trying to make the citizens understand actually the dangers, or rather what happens when they settle in wetlands. Our main worry being the integrity of the environment, and then secondly, also the health of the public. So we have been educating the public. We have also been giving technical backup, especially whereby we draw from the body of knowledge that we have as an agency, especially coming from the environmental audits that we do. We do environmental audits, assessment, monitoring. We do research. We come with a body of knowledge, which we then share for decision making. And we have been doing that and doing it so well. And other than that, we have been into law enforcement, which we have done our part as per the legislation that we are enforcing.
Right. Thank you so much, Madam. You raise a very fundamental issues. Maybe the question would be, is our communication with the public effective? And if not, then what is causing this ineffectiveness around? As you've said, you've used the media to highlight to people the dangers of settling in areas, especially like the wetlands, and that we would rather prevent than cure the problem that we have, because definitely the cost will be higher. But who are people hearing you when you do these outreaches? What is the attitude of the society to the information that you're sharing with the residents?
Knowledge is power, so they say. Knowledge is power because it also goes to change the mindset of the people as well as the behavior. Now, talking about reaching out to the people, every day, of my time as an employee of the agency is to talk to the people, make the people understand the value of environmental management. And I want to point out that yes, we can want to analyze the receptiveness of the information that we are giving out to people. But I want to believe it's being received widely. Remember, we don't only use media. We are also there on the ground. Environmental Management Agency is all over the country. It's all over the country in that we are there in all the districts, in all the provinces. In communities, we are there in the form of what we call environmental subcommittee, which are grassroots institutions which we train and empower in the management of the environment. So when it comes to reaching out to the public, we have got so many platforms, not only the media, we also there through physical contact. Yes, you might say COVID is there. How are we doing it? We have found a way around it to reach out to the communities as well. Now, just as to point out that is our information being received and actually put into use? Yes, I would say to a certain extent, because to be frank with you, Yvonne, there are some people that have been engaged or that have engaged us, and we have given them the right directive, and they've come back to us to say, thank you so much. You served me or you saved my investment. Just to give you an example, people that we allocated land in ecological sensitive areas, I will not call them wetlands because wetlands is just part of the ecological sensitive areas. There are people that have been allocated stands there, and we have actually given them due guidance, and they've taken that guidance and they put it into effect, and they've come back to say, thank you so much. You assisted me, you saved my investment. So to an extent, I can say that is a sign that our information is being received. And also in communities, rural communities, we have communities now taking charge of their environment. And we've got several wetlands that are doing so well in rural communities, all because they are taking our guidance and putting it into use. Unfortunately, probably, Yvonne, this is frank talk. We need to be frank. At times, people decide when to listen. Not like now, when flooding is taking place, that's when people might want to listen. But we have been saying this all along, and we still want to encourage people to take whatever cue we give them.
Right. Right. Thank you so much indeed. This is Frank Talk, and we want to bring these issues right to the crux of the matter. Why are we continually having these challenges when we have the information? Like has already been said, information is power. Why are you settled on wetlands? And I'm going to come wow, Mr. Akili is struggling to reconnect, but we have seen the arrest of some people in Chitungwiza, for example, who are said to be land barons. But does that compensate for the people who have already been settled in those areas? Mr. Chideme, you've said people must apply, but what am I applying for? I've already been allocated land and I was told that the papers are in place. And now we have this problem that the place where I'm settled is apparently a flood prone area because it is a wetland. What is my reprieve? Where do I go? How do I begin the process so that we are resettling people? We had Minister July Moyo saying that people in Chitungwiza will be resettled. But here we are. At what point are they going to be resettled? Our beds are wet. Our blankets are wet. Our furniture is in water right now. And then what? You will need to unmute yourself, Mr.
Okay, yeah,
Shideme, sorry.
right. What we are saying is if you are settled on illegal land, you need to apply for proper housing land to the local authority. And if the land is available, you will be allocated. But for the people who have been affected by this flooding and they are genuine land seekers, there is work that is being done to assist them so that we don't have destitutes in the city, because the magnitude of the people affected is very, very huge. Figures are still being compiled. So, but the best that we can do is to educate our people against buying land that is not designated for housing, because such land will put them in the similar situation which is being faced by some people now today.
Right. I'm going to put it to you that you're not being fair on the rest of the residents, Mr. Chideme, because when you say that information is still being compiled of the people who are affected, it means from the onset, the city is not in charge of where people are settling and where people are. Is that the case? Mr. Chideme?
Hello, what did you say?
Yes, you said that the magnitude of people who have been affected by this is huge, and this information is still being compiled, which to me puts it that the city is not at all in control of the whole situation. You don't know where your people are. And if we are going to start taking remedial action now because flooding has taken place, it also means that as a city, you've been sleeping on the job and not taking appropriate action. Why did you not
No, no,
reallocate
no,
people land in good time?
no, no, Yvonne. I think if you've been following the stories on illegal settlements and on wetlands, I think you've been part of the tours, city tours that have been to some of the settlements. The city has been encouraging people settled on those pieces of land to move out, and we're waiting for court orders. And you remember the removal of illegal structures that happened sometime in December or in November, when people were now complaining that the city was being insensitive. Some of those settlements, had the floods come whilst they were still standing, we could have had a much bigger disaster. So the issue is not about the city sleeping, but the issue is, has the message been going to the people? Yes. Have the people been listening? Probably not. So this is why we are having a platform like this to discuss the issues, so that we continuously engage and educate our people against illegal settlements and settling on ecologically sensitive areas, as my sister has just made reference to.
Right. And my question again, I'll come back to you so that at least we get these answers from the city of Harare. If, for example, do you feel that the residents would have resisted had you given them an alternative piece of land to say you cannot settle here, but you need to move into this particular space? Because even if right now government starts talking about resettling the people who are already housed, where are they going to take those people to? Could, as the city, not have provided those alternative spaces of land for the people who are already settled? We have people who are settled in dam sites. We have people who are settled in those wetlands. We've got people who are settled on land that has been allocated for other things. Is the city unable to then say, you people, you are placed, like we have given you these eviction notices, okay, you want land, let us move you into this alternative space? Can you highlight for us the complexities of one getting land in the city of Harare?
Okay, Yvonne, if we have to be brutally honest, it's not everybody who settled on illegal land that is who is desperate for housing land. Like I indicated to you just a few minutes ago, some people actually left their houses to let them out so that they can maybe eke a living from the real estate. But the issue on availability of land, the city of Harare is on record indicating that it is applying for more land from government. So when government comes in and says we will assist in the settlement of the people, the city is happy, because it means its boundaries are also growing, and it means if those people are allocated land, is the growth of the city that we are looking at. But unfortunately, some people would have suffered in terms of their investments. So the the land belongs to government, and Harare City Council does not have any more farms or maybe where it can plan out and sell housing land. So if government gives us the land, we are more than happy, and planning will be done on those pieces of land so that the people can be properly allocated.
Right. Mr. Mzingwa, you've had interaction with people on numerous occasions, and we always see you on the ground dealing with the issues of water and etc. And we have the city of Harare here. Can you tell us what should be done, what needs to be done in order for us to rectify the challenges that communities are facing in terms of water? Because I think, like you rightly highlighted from the onset, that we've got a water management system challenge. As a country, we don't know how to manage, our catchments, and we have people settled in wetlands. We have floodings that are taking place. Is this not the time when the cities should be harnessing water that will be good for our residents?
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I think before I respond to that question, I want to just respond briefly to the issue of giving alternative land to those that have invaded land.
Right.
I think it's important that we need to be fair. If we set a wrong precedence where people invade land and after invasion, we reward them by giving them alternative land at the detriment of those that are on the housing waiting list, I don't think that's a fair issue when it comes to local authorities. I believe
Right.
that what we need to do is that we need to observe the law when we are undertaking our work. So that's my brief comment on that. Then coming on to the issue that you are talking about on water, I think it's important first that I highlight the services that are offered by wetlands and the nexus between, so that I bring the nexus between our water provision and preservation of wetlands. That is important. Firstly, I want to state that wetlands are in actual fact sources of water. They collect water during the rain season,
Mm-hmm.
and during the dry season, they then release, even during the wet season, they release water slowly into our streams, recharging streams. And these are the streams that ultimately feed into our lake, where water is collected by local authorities that is abstracted, sorry, treated and distributed to the states. So the first service that wetlands are playing when it comes to water service delivery is recharge of streams. The second role that they play is on purification of raw water. We have
Right.
had challenges within local authorities where there's been cries around the need for forex to purchase water treatment plants, water treatment chemicals, sorry. And that issue is emanating from the fact that we have got very bad raw water quality. And
Mm-hmm.
wetlands help in terms of purification of raw water to then reduce the cost of purification free of charge. They play this role without any budgetary requirements requested from any tier of government. So that's a role, a very huge role that wetlands actually play. The third one is offering carbon sequestration services. You understand that we are operating in an environment where we have got varying and changing climatic patterns, and we have the challenge of global warming. And
Right.
wetlands help in terms of act as carbon sinks, and that actually reduces the temperatures that we are experiencing at the global level. So that is a very important aspect that wetlands play. The last one is
Right.
also is on providing flood attenuation services. If you an intact wetland ecosystem help in reducing floods. So those are
Right.
services that wetlands play. What we need to do, which is the second aspect of the question, to me, I think the first port of call for us to ensure that we address the challenges is to re-gazette or gazette wetland maps for all local authorities.
Right.
I want to applaud the environmental management agents. They took an initiative in Harare to undertake that work, but it was challenged on the basis of processes leading to the gazetting process of the Harare wetland map. Why this is
Right.
very important? It has to guide planning for local authorities, because at the moment we have got an unfortunate situation where local authorities are making plans within urban areas based on the Regional Town and Country Planning Act at the exclusion of the Environmental Management Act, which, uh, according to our laws, should be supreme when it comes to planning for local authorities. So the
Mm.
first process that we need to do is to gazette wetland maps for urban local authorities. And that is important and fundamental because it becomes a legal document. Secondly, we need to continue, as has been alluded to by my colleague from the panelist from the Environmental Management Agency,
Right.
sensitizing communities so that citizens make choices from an informed basis when it comes to choice of areas for houses.
Testing.
And
Yeah.
one, I want to also state that it's not only about housing, because I've seen also a trend towards, blaming residents who are marginalized communities within our urban local authorities. We have
Mm-hmm.
had the challenge of even government departments. We have Long Chain Plus. We have Pokugara and Borodale. Those are wetland areas that have been, you see. And majority of them do not have environmental impact assessment certificates. Like Long Chain which I've alluded to, Emma took a very bold decision on long chain plus, but because of politics, you see, in
Right.
our country, that was not respected. So that's an area that I think also need revisiting. The other issue that I think we need also to address is to change the framework on environmental impact assessment. We can't
Right.
have a situation where a property developer is allowed to engage, because a property developer is an interested party. So if we allow them to engage an expert to undertake the process of, producing an environmental impact assessment report, that will not work. We need to ensure that there is clear separation of powers and duties in the administration of environmental impact assessment, so that we
Right.
don't give the responsibility to people, to property developers who are paying those that are undertaking the work. So those works relate to what Parliament should do in terms of strengthening our laws in that division. The other issue that we need to do is to come up with master plans, upgraded master plans. Right now, we
Right.
have got the challenge of outdated master plans. The one for Harare is outdated. The one for any other local authority within the metropolitan province here in Harare is outdated. We need to have an upgraded master plan. And I want to also applaud the Ministry of Local Government, because they have placed a budget, enough budget to come up with a master plan in Harare in the 2021 budget, which was delivered by Honorable Mtulimo. So those are some of the aspects that we need to undertake so that we improve. Then my last two issues is on improving coordination of key institutions that are supposed to play a role. Remember, we have got EMA, we have catchment councils, we have local authorities. So these institutions need to improve their coordination mechanism. You see, so that is very, very important. If we don't ensure that we have got a coordinated institutional framework, we'll continue to have the same challenges. Emma,
Right.
if make a recommendation, that has to be ensured that we've got some sort of a one-stop shop where the environmental management agents, planning departments within the Ministry of Local Government, urban local authorities, and catchment councils, that is in our context, Upper Manyama Catchment Council, sit together and plan together so that we don't have challenges related to the situations that we have. My last one, like I've said, is on community stewardship. The only
Right.
sustainable way to deal with, addressing the challenges beyond strengthening our laws is to ensure that residents, citizens, view wetlands as an important natural resource. We need to ensure that we have got, we inculcate a spirit of community stewardship. That is very fundamental to ensure that we address the challenges at hand.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Life. You highlighted quite a number of important alternatives to dealing with this challenge. Now, I want to come to Emma. There's a question that I that I had after Chideme spoke. What is Emma empowered to do really when, when somebody builds on wetlands? What is Emma able to do? If you write a report, then what? If you dismiss a certain settlement and say this is illegal on the basis that they're settling on wetlands or on what you called ecological sensitive areas, then what?
Wow, that's a very good one and quite pertinent question, Yvonne, because the public has got its own perceptions on the roles of Emma, and I want to actually make the public understand what Emma really does. We are not the tide by all. We don't do everything by ourselves. We like running a race, a relay race. We hand over the baton stick to another department. Actually, that's how government departments are. We need to sort of complement each other here and there. Now, what you are saying, what is our role? We just write the report. No. We don't just write the report, Yvonne. Starting off from the sensitization that I talked about, the board of knowledge, like just giving you, for example, Chitungwiza town council long back, we did release information for decision making to them that, look here, of the whole of Chitungwiza, 912 hectares is actually wetland area. And by then already we discovered that only about 189 hectares was remaining. So no wonder why most of Chitumbiza is underwater right away. Is because most of it is concrete jungle in a wetland area, and the environment has got a good memory. It just thought of using its long lost course now that we have got these excessive rains. Now, coming to what we actually do, you need to understand that our act is premised on the precautionary principle that I talked about, and the one thing to push the precautionary principle agenda is actually the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment Principle that HARARE referred to, where he was saying there is need to change here and there. But I want to assure HARARE that what is good is that EMA is a neutral party there. When we come to do the ground truthing, when we come to actually review the report, we actually pick up on all the issues that could have been left out. So usually we come in handy there to balance the act if ever there is any form of corruption. Now, you said we just write the report. We don't write the report. One thing that you need to understand is that we don't allocate land, but we monitor what happens on somebody's land. In this case, we are saying land is either state property, council property, or private land. So we tend to monitor what then happens on that land. We don't allocate stands, which is what most people need to understand, because in most cases, Emma, where were you? You were allocating stands. We don't allocate stands. Now, how do we get to know that an area is earmarked for settlement? For instance, most of our local authorities, they don't have land use plans. So it's very difficult to know beforehand that such a portion is earmarked for what? For residential areas. Now, we are working with a system that already is porous, right? Now, to cover up, still we have the EIA principle. When a land is earmarked for settlement, obviously, we'll see buildings going up if we are not told. Then that's when we come in and then we issue what we call an environmental protection order. It's within our purview to actually issue an environmental protection order. And this environmental protection order, we don't issue it to the households. No, we issue it to the owner of the land who actually parceled out that land. In most cases, you find the port of call is the local authority. So if you take a paper track, in most of these local authority, they are sitting with a number of environmental protection orders from the environmental management to say, no development should happen here. And for your own information, housing developments are prescribed projects according to the first schedule of the Environmental Act, and they need an environmental impact assessment to be done before anything can happen. Remember the prevention that I talked about. So the prevention, if people fail to comply with the order, they go on to build, we issue a ticket. We find that compliance is still not there. We then go ahead and we open dockets. So we have got a number of these local authorities, of these housing developments sitting on orders, tickets, and dockets. So that's what we do, and that is within the purview of our act. We cannot do what is outside our act. The public needs to understand that. People want us to demolish. No, our act does not allow us to demolish. Remember, there is section 72 of the Constitution again. Each one has got a right to shelter. So there are a lot of things that really are there as we carry out our operations. So the public needs to understand where EMA stands, and the EMA thoroughly does whatever the government assigned it to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Chideme, when you receive these environmental protection orders, what do you do with them?
When we receive them, we would have also requested for them from EMA. So when the EI is adverse and does not permit construction of buildings, we implement as is directed. But when it says the construction can go ahead, we also implement as is.
Right. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that response. Now we coming to you live on Zimbabwe Daily, and we are talking about the cost of restoring versus ignoring our wetlands. And as we are coming to a conclusion of this discussion, Madam Amkela, all right. I see Mr. Akili is really trying to rejoin us because I really wanted to come on to him, Kuti, as residents, as associations. What are they really doing? Are they informing their residents on what is happening? Mr. Akili, can you hear me? Mr. Akili, can you hear me? If you can unmute your mic. Mr. Akili, if you can unmute your mic so that we can hear you. All right, so Mr. Akili seems to be really having a hard time with his network. I hope we'll be able to bring him on board on one of the days so that we can really ask questions to the residents. What are you doing? Kana matotskoti njimba igariki because zimunzira memvura. Then what? What are you doing about it? Why can't you deal with the expert advice that we get? But all the same, we want to continue with this conversation as we move towards the end. Mr. Akili, I see you've unmuted yourself. Can you hear me? Mr. Akili.
Sorry, Yvonne, can I try to just come in? Because sometimes we also work with the CHRA on some of the initiatives there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I think the sensitization is being done. Stakeholders coming together and resident associations included when it comes to informing. When it comes to informing people on the ground. I want to talk about the challenge of setting a wrong precedent, Yvonne.
Right.
The reason why we are battling with this challenge today. Remember, we had an era where some people, a group of youths for that matter, will simply raise a flag, invade land, and based on political affiliation, nothing will happen.
Right.
So that precedence, you see, which goes on unchallenged and create some sort of immunity from some sections within political parties, set a wrong for the nation. That's why even today you still have land barons who invaded those particular pieces of land, allocated without any plan those particular pieces of land, and are still walking scot-free. So the precedence that was set by that is what brought us to where we are today. So that is very important to the politics of our country. We need also to I know it's an area that government institutions, EMA included, as well as City of Harare, cannot talk about. But that's the reality of what we are experiencing in our nation. If we don't address that aspect, will we have people coming from different political affiliations doing the same process, and it will bring the same results as we are having at the moment. So that's the first port of call. Then secondly, residents associations have been also pushing, CHRA included, for flats or skyrocketing buildings, because land is a finite resource. You can't expect that you continue to have land for housing, till the load comes back. So we need also to change our housing structure so that we don't have a situation where you continue to have a horizontal construction process rather than the vertical process to meet housing demands. So they've been also providing researches and policy alternatives to policymakers. They've been doing researches, analysis of the legal framework, analysis of regulations, and proffering those to Parliament for engagement. They've been also petitioning Parliament. I know of those processes that have been happening, so that Parliament play its role when it comes to strengthening legislation. They've been also engaging even the environmental management agents to play their role, and they've been trying their best, every institution. But I'm not saying that they have not met challenges along the way. We also have a serious challenge of corruption, Yvonne.
But what does the corruption in it, why are we not seeing people getting arrested if they're corrupt? Why are we solemnizing things that are destroying our nation? I know you raised an issue of politics, but are we not all playing politics by saying politics is our biggest problem? If we know who the land barons are, why are they not being arrested? And if they are arrested, why are they being released without paying the consequences of their actions? We are seeing people, they pay.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, Yvonne, what people do is they join political parties to offer security, to get some sort of security. You see?
Right.
So that's the corruption that I'm talking about. So corruption has been also a very huge, and sometimes I will tell you that there are cases where even if Emma wants to come in, I've given an example of Longchen. Emma took a position,
right,
on Longchen, and what happened? It involved big guys, and what do you expect a small guy from Emma to do? They cannot do anything, you see. And the precedence that is set by even our big politicians across the political divide, when it comes to them also being at the forefront to invade wetlands, and without any consequences happening,
right.
So you see, it's a complex issue. When it comes to politics, Yvonne, you can't expect Emma to play a part. No. You can't expect Sito Vara to play a part. No. It is up to citizens to change the culture of politics in our nation, because that is also a bearing in terms of achieving whatever we want to achieve. Be it wetland preservation, be it catchment management, be it housing, be it addressing corruption, all those aspects come into play.
Oh, wow. It's so discouraging. It's so discouraging when we realize that action can actually be taken, but it is not, because we don't really have strong institutions that can stand up to the things that we want to achieve. Now we only have 8 minutes to conclude this discussion, and in this closing, we just want to look at the cost of restoration. I know you have spoken about fly rocketing buildings in order to deal with the land challenges, but how does that restore our wetlands? What does that mean? What is restoring our wetlands? What does it look like? Emma, what does it look like, Madam Amkela? What does restoring our wetlands look like? What does that mean?
Yes, the first thing that maybe I might want to raise, Yvonne, is that prevention is cure. That's the best. That's the running line that we should take. And when you actually degrade an environment, it becomes costly to rehabilitate. That is the bottom line. So now, when we are looking at the restoration of these wetlands, we mustn't lose hope. They can be restored, and we've got several of them that are actually being restored. And how do you restore them? It's just by letting them survive naturally without the concrete jungles that we have there, without us cultivating on them, without having them having our livestock grazing on them, without draining them. We can actually restore them. Remember, the NDS 1 is actually talking to the restoration of this wetland, and as Emma, we are working very hard towards achieving that we restore several of these lost wetlands. And just out of curiosity, I want to point out to the public that as enforcing our Section 113 of the Environmental Management Act, just in 2020 only, we stopped 20 wetland projects because of site suitability. And we want to say, we'll carry on as the agents, we won't tire. it's one thing tiring, and it's one thing keeping on talking up to when people say Emma talks a lot. It talks a lot because we want the people to change their mindset and understand that this environment, it's all that we have. Land is a finite resource. It cannot stretch, and therefore we cannot keep on saying people can actually be accommodated. Now, probably looking at some of the solution, need to network. Let's have a situation whereby the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. As departments that are into wetland management, let's push towards the same direction. Let's not have each one of us pulling in different directions. If we do such, then we are just disservicing the whole agenda. The other thing is to come up with a national wetland strategy. So that as the nation, we know our point of reference. At the moment, as Emma, I think had referred to it, the issue of gazetting of wetland. We tried to gazette the HARARE wetlands, and we lost in 2015 due to technicality. But as it is, wetland gazetting for HARARE and Chitungwis are now at stakeholder consultation. Actually, we have gone through past stakeholder consultation, and we want before the end of the year, if everything goes well, then that could be concluded. The wetland guidelines, actually the ecological sensitive guidelines, are also now at a stage where they are waiting gazetting, as well as the national wetland policy, because we want to have a point where we refer to as a nation, and then we have a standard way of managing our wetlands. We need to realign our policies, no overlaps, no gaps, and as the agents, we are pushing to fill some of the gaps that we have realized. Right away, the wetlands are not gazetted, and therefore, whoever is doing something on a wetland is not a criminal act because they've not been declared as ecological sensitive areas. So there are a lot of things really that we are doing other than raising awareness, also encouraging local authorities to come up with the bylaws, and above all, remembering that if you hurt the environment will hurt you back.
Right, thank you so much. Mr. Chideme, I'll ask you to come through there. What does it take for local authorities to come up with bylaws that protect the environment?
Yes, we do bylaws. We have bylaws that protect the environment. But I think what needs to be done now is to have stakeholder engagement with stakeholders inputting into the renewal of the bylaws, because there are some emerging trends now that were not there when the original bylaws were done. So I think we need to periodically review the bylaws so that they can speak to the present environment.
Right. In the coming up of bylaws, Vachideme, maybe for the benefit of our viewers, who drafts these bylaws? Is it me as a person? Can I just come up and say I'm proposing something like this, or what happens in the drafting of those bylaws?
Okay, bylaws are drafted by our legal department, but what happens is we do what we call stakeholder engagement to have input from the stakeholders that this is what we have proposed, or even the stakeholders can also make a proposal to council, and then council can also input into that proposal to say probably we need to go this way, and then have consensus. Usually bylaws are a consensus between the stakeholders and the city.
Right. And is the city coming up with anything of that sort? Should we see more stakeholder engagements on bylaws?
Nothing to my knowledge at the moment, but we are always open to revision of bylaws if there is need.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chideme. The cost of restoring versus ignoring. I received this image. I think it was from you, Mr. Mzingwa, and I want us to take a look at it together, because there is a very worrisome trend, especially in terms of our wetland. So total wetland area was coming up to, like, I think the highest day I'm seeing 5,449 hectares of land in back in the years, and then we've seen housing development rising over the years. I don't know, Mr. Mdzimba, would you want to like explain to me what I'm seeing? Because I'm seeing in 2006 we had about 5,449 hectares of land, wetland area, and now we are somewhere around 3,214. Would you want to explain that to me, please?
Yeah, I think it's just a graphical presentation of trends, that is changes in wetlands over time. I think just
Right.
like what has been also alluded to by my colleague from the Environmental Management Agency, that a lot of the land has been allocated for housing. I think she also talked about Shitungwiza being, majority of the land there being a wetland, but there are houses all over. So
Right.
depletion over time because of housing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Mdzingwa, for joining me in this conversation. Madam Amkela, thank you so much for coming through. Mr. Michael Chideme from the city of Harare, thank you so much for coming through. Mr. Akili, unfortunately, he was not able to say anything. I think the network has just been so poor. Thank you so much, Madam Amkela. Oh, you are on mute.
Okay, I'm saying thank you so much. And remember, yesterday was World Wetlands Day, celebrating under wetlands and water inseparable for life. And they really, they are inseparable.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of day, ma'am.
Same to
Mr.
you.
Mdingo, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks very much for hosting this discussion. I think in the future we hope to have in-depth discussions taken from the lessons that we've learned today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for coming through. Peso Toriro, you're saying interesting discussion. It is a pity that many people did not participate. This affects everyone. Indeed, like I always say, important conversation do not necessarily draw the kind of attention that is needed, but we do not stop talking about it, because in the future somebody will be able to say somebody once talked about it. And that is why we bring you Frank Talk right here on Zimbabwe Daily, because we want to come up with the answers that help us to build our nation. This is Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka, and this is Frank Talk. Have a wonderful rest of day.